The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and some tasty ramen, which probably tastes just as good 10 years into the apocalypse as it does when it's fresh.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. The dead are coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, an all Walking Dead universe podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm disgusted with ramen.
This is podcast episode number 314. Tonight we're discussing episode 5 of the first season of The Ones Who Live. The title of this episode is Become. And I don't know if you noticed the clever naming device that Mr. Gimple used, but last week's episode was called What We, and then this episode is called Become. So clever.
Wait, I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
So before we get into details about the episode, let's talk quick thoughts. I'm pretty sure you went first last week, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You have to remember, odd episodes, you go first because you started with episode 1. And so then even episodes, I would go first. And since this is episode 5.
I go first.
Yeah,
okay. Because I update it in the notes, but sometimes I'm like, did I update it?
Then you're like, wait a minute. Did I update it twice?
Well, because I copy the same notes over and over and over again.
Right.
Just change them. So I'm like, did I change it? Yeah. Anyway, so I get to go first. So I get to talk about my quick thoughts on this episode. And my quick thoughts are, I really, really liked it. We were talking before we started recording. And the way I sort of put it with Steve was, in terms of percentage, I would say I liked it. Maybe there were probably less things I liked in this episode than I did the last week. Like I had a couple more nits to pick, but they weren't like killer things. Overall, really, really liked this episode. They're like on the right path between last week being as good as it was. This week is sort of like, it feels like a continuation of that good feeling, that good vibe from the last episode. And it was a really good setup for what next week will be the season finale. And we'll talk about whether or not we think it's a season finale or a series finale and where we think we're going with that. But overall, really, really like this episode. How about you? What did you think of Become?
I enjoyed it. I think in looking at the way the season is broken down, it was what happened in this episode was they had to do this just for telling the story, because the device of Jadis kind of sitting over them and controlling them with this file, right? That really hamstrings what they can do. The fans will only put up with that for so long, right? And eventually the fans will be like, okay, why don't they just do what Michonne suggested doing? I don't know, either last episode or the episode before, which is we go back, we kill her, we torture her first and find out where the file is, we destroy the file, and then we leave. And that would be what the fans eventually be like, well, why don't you do that? So they couldn't keep or Jadis sitting there going, oh, can't run away, I got the file, don't remember the file. And so it makes sense to me that if they're going to continue either way, even if they're going to end it or if they're going to squeeze out at least the season 2 out of it, they had to solve that problem.
Right.
And that way, then the two of them could go, are really free to operate and do what they want to do. So that part of it makes total sense to me. The only thing that I would say that was detracting to me was just the utter sheer ridiculousness that Jadis somehow found them. I mean, I don't know if you looked at a map, but Wyoming's kind of a big state. Okay. And, this idea that she, somehow followed the Rama rappers or whatever was just, I mean, it was very, I had real strong fear vibes there
Yeah.
With this sort of, yes, of course, you start out on the Pacific Northwest, then you go to Wyoming, and you have like a 3-day head start. Of course, someone can find you by themselves. Sure. So that was a little distracting for me, but the rest of it was great, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And obviously, we'll talk about Pollyanna McIntosh and her performance and go from about how great that character was. But yeah. So I don't know if it's. I think, like I said, I still think episode 3 is my overall favorite, with last week being a real close second. Yeah. And I would say this is probably third favorite.
Okay, that's fair. All right. So before we get into our details of what went down in the episode, let's first start off with a quickie episode description, super quickie one. Steve, that's your department. So.
All right. And first of all, I just like to thank the episode writing department for either AMC or wherever you got this, because they had to work, I'm guessing, long hours into the night for this episode description. You know what I mean? To really craft each of the 8 words to make sure they fit perfectly and told us absolutely nothing. But before we get into that, let's just remind everyone that this week's episode is being brought to you by...
Looking for your next meal in the zombie apocalypse? Then why not try Tasteful Nudes? No, not that kind of nudes. Tasteful Nudes Ramen. Oh, yes. Sure, it's ramen and it tastes like shit, but it's better than eating crickets. So make your next meal a sexy one with Tasteful Nudes. Available wherever abandoned vans are found. You've had a hard day killing zombies. You're looking for something to quench your thirst. Well, reach for a Zip Lemon Lime Soda. Crisp, refreshing flavor without the caffeine. Never had it, never will. Even if it did, caffeine would have probably evaporated by now, seeing as how we haven't made any Zip in over a decade. So try a room temperature Zip Lemon Lime Soda today and make your thirst a relic of the past.
Available exclusively in Wyoming.
Are you ready to get away for a while? Then book a room at the Three Pines Cabin and escape all of your zombie troubles. And with our exclusive morning wake-up executions, you'll be getting all the rest you ever wanted. Housekeeping! So make your reservations today. Three Pines Cabin, protecting the park from the people from the park, and the people from the people. Whatever that means.
So there you go. All right.
I can't decide which one I want to do first. Do I want to eat some ramen? Do I want to have some old stale soda? Or do I want to
lime soda.
Stay at a cabin in the woods?
But it has their exclusive early morning wake up execution.
Yeah, your wake up call is one you won't forget. I mean, maybe you'll forget because you'll be dead, but still.
Yeah, but it'll be memorable for as long as you can remember it.
It sure will be.
All right, so this amazingly descriptive episode description we have is, again, for episode 1.5. The title of the episode is Become, and it is, get ready, Dangerous People Make Rick and Michonne's Journey Difficult. Huh? And I could almost, I don't know about you guys, but I could almost, hear when whoever came up with this one and was pitching it to their workmates, the air quotes when they said the word difficult, right? Oh boy!
Oh my God! I'm not defending the episode description in any way, but one thing's for sure: the episode descriptions, either on IMDb or AMC or Wikipedia, they are all very vague all the way up until the episode is released. And even after it's released, it takes a good 24 to 48 hours for them to update to something that's more descriptive, like, Jadis goes after Michonne and Rick with bad results. She's gone now. Surprisingly, Gabriel shows up. You know what I mean? Like the stuff they're trying to keep secret, they're trying to do their very, very, very best with all that. So I get why they're short, but it's hilarious how tiny that is. And difficult for sure is totally the understatement.
Yeah, it's like, really? You think so? Okay. Yeah.
All right, so let's praise some of the people involved with the making of this episode. So let's talk writers and director for this episode before we get into details. So,
all right, well, our writing and directing is all people we've talked about before. Our writers are the same pair. If you remember, last week was the Michonne show, right? It was written by Denai, and so that was kind of her major contribution besides the pilot episode, the first episode,
right?
Now that's out of the way, and they obviously wanted to give her a chance to do that. Now we're back to the writing pairs that we've had so far in every other episode, and the writing pair for this one is the same one we had for episode 3. Bye. Which is 2 guys. The first is a newbie by the name of Gabriel Alanis. I'm guessing. I'm not sure. Last time we talked about it, I wasn't sure. And the other guy is Matt Negretti. And we again, both of them are executive producers on this show. Gabriel, this episode and episode 3 are the only 2 scripts that he's written for Walking Dead. But like on that episode when we reviewed it, I mentioned his other TV work he's written for a bunch of TV shows, including Private Practice and Grey's Anatomy and Supergirl, and even going all the way back to Party of 5. And he also wrote one of the Nick Cage National Treasure movies. I believe the second one, The Edge of History. So, so he has a lot of experience writing, but only 2 episodes of The Walking Dead. So there you go. And then, of course, Matt Negretti, we talked about him a ton. He's written 23 episodes of The Walking Dead through seasons 4 through 9. And you can go and look it up. He wrote some of the ones you remember, right? And I think last time we mentioned he wrote Slab Town, which was the episode with Beth finding the weird people who lived at the hospital, which is ultimately where Beth didn't make it. So and then he also wrote 4 episodes of World Beyond. He wrote 2 in season 1 and 2 in season 2, which explains, I think, why they wanted him back for the show, because World Beyond had a lot of CRM stuff in it, a lot of Jadis stuff in it. And so, they would want to bring him back because he had a lot of experience writing at least the new version of Jadis, the non-mainstream. And then our director is, one of the heavy hitters of the Walking Dead universe, and that's Michael Satrazemis.
Yeah.
And we're very familiar with him. He directed 17 episodes of the main show through seasons 4 through 10. And his debut episode he directed, if you remember, was the Carol Look at the Flowers episode.
The Grove. Such a great episode.
Yep. So there you go. That was his debut. And I think he was like a cameraman before that. So he had a lot of experience making the show, but that was the first time he got to helmet. Then, unfortunately for his resume and for us in general, he also directed 23 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, and not during the good times. It was all through seasons 4 through 8, which was all the Knucklehead era. And he also directed 3 episodes of the Tales of the Walking Dead. So he 3 of the 5 or 6 of those, so more than half of those he directed as well. Wow. And then this is the only one of the Ones Who Live that he directed, so it's just episode 1.5. So we'll have to see. Will 1.6 be a Greg Nicotero joint? Maybe. I don't know. I have not seen anything. Have you seen anything about that?
No, I haven't. I have not. And I've been trying to stay away because the internet is like super duper spoilery these days. So I haven't even really been paying attention to a lot of the social media stuff for this show because people are so rabid about the Rick and Michonne relationship that it's like it's a mess out there. Like there's a lot of pictures and stuff like that. And I'm actually surprised that the person who was revealed in the cold open, I didn't get spoiled on that. So very interesting. So
all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll find out next week who the director is. That'll be exciting either way. So
yeah. So anyway, that is your writer and your director. So there you go.
Awesome. All right. So speaking of the cold open, hello, Father Gabriel. How surprised were you?
Oh, that's who that was. I thought it was a new character.
Yeah. How surprised were you to see him?
I suppose it was definitely shocking. Sure. I did not, and not because I don't like Father Gabriel or I was, I didn't want to see people from the main show come back. I just didn't think they would do it. For at least for this first 6 episodes, I thought, you know what, they really want to get their story established of what they're trying to do, so they wouldn't want to suddenly, particularly this late in the game, to suddenly go, oh, and now we're going to pull in somebody from the, back home, and oh, okay, even though it was all flashbacks until the very end. Right. I was a little confused because it said like 3 years ago is when the first flashback, like that opening scene.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so all that's after the Commonwealth?
It sounds like, based on what he was saying, that they were in the middle of the problems with it. I think that first time they were in the middle of the problems with the Commonwealth because they were sort of trying to range afar and find food, resources, things like that. So it explained some of that. Like why he was out in the woods, etc.
Right.
I mean, to begin with, or like by himself going to look for things. So I had the sense that at least that first year, they were still like at least at the very end. So of the Commonwealth stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
So again, it just didn't make any sense to me because he kept talking about how everybody's starving.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, yeah, but like they have ice cream and stuff at the Commonwealth, and don't you guys like own that now? So I'm like, okay. So that was a little weird trying to place, where that was versus the main show and where this show is and all that. So that was a little weird and a little, it just kind of made me kind of go, I'm not sure. But it was awesome to see him again. That's for sure. Seth Gilliam's awesome. So anytime you can get him in there, and at first, like when the helicopters flew over, because that's the first you see him, and he kills a ghoul or something, and then the helicopter, there's a flyover, and it's probably her gonna fly over and land, but he looks up and he sees it, and then he kind of says a Hail Mary or something, and at first I thought, wow, is this like flashing way back to before he even met Rick and everybody? But then like his eyeball was all messed up, so then I'm like, well, that can't be right. But that was my first thought, that he's just amazed that there's a helicopter and oh my god, what, there's other people and all this stuff. So, but what did you think when you first saw him? What was your reaction?
I was surprised. The 3 years, and I had to really sort of calibrate myself, and I still think for clarity I'm probably gonna have to look at, because people really like, I don't want to say obsessively, people work really hard online to maintain like the canon like timeline. So I'm just going by what my sense was. So 3 years ago, you've got to assume Michonne has already left, because you got to figure Michonne was on that journey. Michonne went on that journey pre, what's it called? Commonwealth, right? They weren't in any kind of
again, it's
hassle with the Commonwealth, were they? I don't remember.
Okay, so I see. My memory seems to say that Eugene and Princess and the king went off to find the radio girl before the Whisperer War was over. Because they were looking for allies. They were trying to find people to help them fight the Whisperers, okay?
Right.
So trying to relate where that was in the show, was Michonne already gone? Did she already bring the guy that drugged her back to the group and then left before the Whisperers were over? I don't remember the specifics of what was happening, but the strongest memory I have is that the Whisperers ended and then they found the Commonwealth right away.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I guess I sort of in my head I positioned it to where in the midst, like Gabriel's world, he's in the midst of some type of connection with the Commonwealth, whatever part of that timeline is true. I think it was post Whisperer War. I think. Okay. But because they were still struggling because the Whisperers, they burned Alexandria. So they didn't have any food. So they had a lot of problems then. So I think it's post Whisperer War. Maybe they're in the midst of like getting to know Commonwealth. I don't know yet. But Michonne is definitely gone to go look for Rick, and the rest sort of flows from there. I think too, there was actually, I saw one thing on Twitter after the show aired, and one of the things that's actually a controversy with people is people are, and someone says it in the feedback too, is people are really convinced that Gabriel was still with Rosita at this time, and that by even meeting, and yes, later he has the kiss with her, but that by even meeting regularly with Jadis is some type of, just indiscretion on the part of Rosita. But I think like by the time the Whisper War was coming to a close, I think they were broken up because their relationship happened before she was with Sadiq.
Yeah, you're right, and somewhere in there was the Angela Kang time jumps too. So
right.
So how much this could be in one of those periods that we kind of skipped over to get to the Whispers or whatever. Exactly. It would be really nice to have somebody from the show kind of explain exactly where in the timeline that fits in, because it's just confusing where you're like, okay, so what was going on? And
so why, for me, I had the thought about Rosita at first, but then I was like, no, because if he's saying we're starving, then we've got to be post Whisperers and at some part of the Commonwealth Junction. And I was like, and by then Rosita was totally done. That was over. So as soon as I thought it, I was like, okay, so I sort of situated myself there, but some other folks aren't convinced. So we'll see about that. But for me, I love Gabriel. I loved the arc that he had toward the end of the main series. I really loved all of the he was just so fierce and he was still like searching for, remember when they were with the with the Reapers, those were Leah's people and Pope.
Yes,
but he killed that priest or the man of God or whatever. And that, like, as much as the Reapers were terrible, and so was Pope and Leo and whatever, that episode with Gabriel was actually his stuff, and his journey in that episode was pretty good, because we knew where he was sort of mentally, and that struggle made more sense than the stuff that like Daryl was going through that was like relationshipy and and here's this megalomaniac who's in charge. As usual, there's always someone who's got fits of grandeur or whatever, but the stuff that Gabriel was going through was much more, relatable, and he was questioning his faith and all this other stuff, but he was still a badass in a lot of ways. And so because of that journey that he was on, I really, that last couple of seasons, I was really, really loving a lot of Gabriel stuff. I was so convinced he was going to die by the finale. I really was. And so, and I'm glad he didn't. I would have been sad if he did, but so I liked that he showed back up again. And I think obviously if you're going to have someone bridge the Rick and Michonne series to the main series, but do it in a way that's not ridiculous. This was probably the fastest path to something, and something that wouldn't, something that it was able to exist as it was. One episode, a couple of meetings, and that's it. To me, it made sense. It worked within the canon. It fit what Gabriel was going through at the time. And because of that, he was very sensitive to what Jadis was going through too, and kept calling her Anne and everything. So I really liked the use of Gabriel. I thought it wasn't like, smash you over the head with all of the, all of the grander themes and stuff like that. I thought personally that it fit very nicely. And when he turned and you saw his face, I was like, oh, Gabriel. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad it really, I think it paid off. I think that whole line, that through line of him showing up every year and whatever, I thought that was
okay. Now I think you have to be honest with us, because I'm sure when he first looked up, the first thought that you had was Heath.
Yeah. No.
No, I know.
No. We're never seeing Heath again.
Heath never just got out. He went over that bridge, and that's just it.
That's just it. He was lunch,
because
if it was something else,
if
it was something else, they would have, because people have sort of like self-found things that they're like, oh, that's what this means. This could mean Heath. This could be, referencing him. If they really wanted to reference Heath again in any way, have him show back up again, these guys love to do Easter eggs. It'd be more obvious. They'd make it more like this is so like Heath fell over that bridge and he died.
Yeah. Yep. Until they announced the Scott Gimple produced 26 episode season number 1 entitled Heath, The Walking Dead. I agree. I think we're never going to see him again, but it's just kind of funny to always be like, I wonder whatever happened to Heath.
I think too, like ultimate, I mean, not that it's even a realistic idea in any way, but it kind of like at this point, if he did show up in any way, even if it was someone in the background, even if whatever, it'd be like Madison levels of like bringing someone back that like, what are you adding to the story now?
Right. Yeah. Most people would be like, who's that?
Right.
Most of the people on the show would be like, who's that? Like Rick would be like, he was with us? He was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. The only place I thought that would have made sense for Heath to show up was when they got to the Commonwealth and there was that wall of missing people with pictures and stuff. And then you could have had a picture there to show that like maybe he has a family member there somewhere, or someone who knew him, whether it was like a college friend or, a personal friend or, somebody who's like, we get together and, but hey, who knows? We got separated and he ended up, I don't know where he ended up, but if he's out there, I'd love to see him. Like
we have so many episodes to catch up on.
I know, it's crazy. It'd be great if they did that, but I doubt it. So anyway, yeah, I liked having the Gabriel there. I thought that worked out well. I've got some more notes on him as we go. So after the credits, we get to the continuing adventures of Rick and Michonne as they blaze a trail across, the upper, what are we calling this? The Central Plains,
well,
the upper Central Plains-ish.
They have left the Great Northwest, and now they're in the the flatlands of America. Yeah. So
yeah, the flatlands of America. I mean, I put a little joke in there because at one point they take a little rest and they're by a fire and there's a big sign behind them that's like blah blah blah, party and do fun things in Wyoming. And I was like, I wonder if we're in Wyoming, which clearly we are. Duh. But
and they're showing you, that like since Rick and they're now together and they're united in what they want to do, it's like everything's coming up Millhouse for them as they're on their way back, right? Because they literally find the van and they open up the hatchback and the box of ramen falls out. But if you look in there, I mean, there's like 20 boxes of ramen in the back of that supply van, of that sales van, right? And they kind of look at you like, and then the next scene, there's all these vending machines there's that thick twisted vines have grown over that they'll never be able to get through. And then the ghoul walks around the corner and he's got the machete sticking out of his shoulder. And Rick kind of looks at her like, do you believe this? And so then the next scene they kill the ghoul, and then the next scene Rick's drinking the soda, and then it finalizes with they go to the lodge at Yellowstone, and they find not only that there are cabins, but there's a key to one of them right there. I mean, so it's just like everything's going their way in a positive way, right? That just their luck is totally turned, and kind of confirming what Jadis has already put forward, which is they're unstoppable. That when they're together, look out, because they're going to find a way to barrel through it. And just look at how they're just, cruising across the country. They found a car that works, that has gas and is a hybrid that'll get them home, right? That's impossible in the first place. Now they're like finding all the food they need on the way, So I mean, it's an interesting kind of a montage of just how they're just like, yep, we are nailing this thing, and then of course they run into the family, and then things kind of get a little bit slowed up. Yeah.
I did enjoy like I'm glad that they pointed out that they were like, our luck is, he made some comment about, our luck continues or stuff like that. So that's like, they're making it clear that it's not normal to have like this happen, to have that happen, to open up the van, all the noodles fall out, the stuff like that. That's just, it's not normal for all of this good fortune to happen pretty much. Yeah. But I did enjoy, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you should refer to them by their name. They were Tasteful Nudes.
Oh, my God. Terrible. But I like that the food and the soda, like acquiring that is kind of a callback between that and the toothpaste and all of that. And he brings up the toothpaste thing.
That's right.
Which happened in the episode where they first, kiss and, whatever. But the food and the soda happened in that same episode. That was Daryl going to try and find soda for Denise, and they wanted to try and get that machine, and Jesus stole their truck and drove away. Like, so so it's interesting because when he gets home and he's, you had a day, I had a day, you had a day. And it's interesting because his day was meeting Jesus, and her day was the day that they put down Deanna. Was it? No, that was later. I'm so sorry. It wasn't. It was something different. She was dealing with other drama there, but he had to
he had like the buddy cop episode with Daryl, and then Jesus steals the van, and then they're chasing Jesus around, and it's kind of very lighthearted, and then her storyline was much more hardcore and intense, but I like that. I like the fact that he remembered that he promised her he would get her some toothpaste.
Yeah, and that he remembered the whole like the spearmint, the baking soda thing.
Yeah,
it's good. It's nice attention to detail. It was really good. But I really liked that. Like the between the looking for food and the soda, they're actually able to get the soda and the food, as opposed to what happened, which is they lost some of it because of Jesus, and the truck ended up in the water.
Didn't it sink? Yeah.
Yeah, totally sunk. So there's that. But Jesus gets out of his captivity, and he comes in after they have had sex and they're asleep, and he appears in their room, and Jadis does the same thing.
Right.
So totally, clearly a separate, a different feeling. But yeah, it just the sort of the structure of how that all came about was very similar to that first episode there. Yeah, loved it. Loved those. Love when they do a different kind of ghoul. A different look, a different like how they came to be. I thought it was really cool. How about you?
Yeah, I did too. I like that the calcified or whatever they were, and my comment just were stone ghouls, because Rick walks up to one and chops it right in the head with his machete, and the sound they put in is like he hit his machete into a rock.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, and of course that introduces us to Red and Dalton and Joy, I think was the girl's name. I can't remember. And I know you have some strong thoughts on them, but I did enjoy the kind of steam created ghouls.
Oh yeah.
There, that was a neat fit for the effects guys and gals to get to play. And so yeah, I whenever they do that, I always love it.
And it was nice because it sort of tied the location in together. It's funny because when they first showed them coming up to like the lodge area, and they showed like an exterior, there was smoke in the background, and I was like, well, what's going on back there? Those people over there, and they were used to it because they had probably already ridden past there, but it was obviously like a geothermal area with like the steam, etc., which is prevalent in that area of the US. So they must have already driven past something that was similar, and so they didn't think anything of it, steam rising like that, because it wasn't smoke when I thought about it afterwards, because it was very white. It was very much like steam, and but to have the ghouls be connected to what their location is, like they specifically look this way because of this location. I thought that was cool. It's not often that they're able to do that, but the way that they're able to take like a new location and tie it into, well, this is a type of ghoul you've never seen before.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, when when they first go into the lodge, or maybe after, when they leave the little family, they are walking around in the lodge, and you can see that there are displays that one of them says like, what is a geyser? And it's like the stuff that they would have, the educational kind of stuff that at the tourist part of the park would have, where people go in and they can, they pay their, $2, and they can walk around and read all the different stuff about all the stuff that's in the park. And clearly geysers was one of them. And so it's like, oh, okay, it helps tie it all together. So yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, those are great. So they hear, was it help or
there's
whatever
a scream, and they go run. They immediately run. So they're showing their true colors, that they did not hesitate to go help someone that they don't even know who they are.
Yeah. And the thing is that in this universe, you have to think like, is that even someone who needs help?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, trap.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, no. I was honestly expecting them to come upon a group of people, and like behind them was like a couple of CRM soldiers. Like I was expecting that to be the trap. I was like, no, don't go running there. But they did, because they're like,
it's them.
They're the apocalypse version of bleeding heart liberals. They can't help themselves, really. They just want to help everybody. And I understand in the structure of the episode, I understand why this group had to exist and what catalyst and reasoning they were there, but just the makeup of the group just drove me bananas, because to me it felt like they were very stereotypical. And we were talking about it before we recorded, and I was like, each group that's like 3 people that are 2 men and a woman, it's usually the guy, one of the guys is like a total dipshit redneck who's more action oriented. He does stuff before he thinks about it.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulled the gun, and then the other dude was like, oh, we're doing this, and then joined him. The other person is usually a little more goofy / stupid. And then there's always a woman who's like, oh God, don't do that. Oh no. You know, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm not saying that's every group of 3. I don't want to fall into that trap, but in the, you know, the realm of, we come upon a group of 3 people in the forest, more often than not, it's this group makeup. You know, we're hungry. But we have a gun with like a few bullets in it. So
they had 2 guns.
They had 2 guns, which is helpful. You know, they can't, I don't know. It just, anyway. Yeah.
So tell me what you really think. Come on now.
They were there. They were sort of the catalyst for the rest of the episode. Like once they leave them, you know, they pop back up again because they end up with Jadis, and then Jadis, you know, the final scene of action happens with them involved as well. But yeah, it was funny to a degree. Like you had the moment where, like, you know, when they were all finished and like, you know, don't forget asshole or whatever it was that Rick said to the dudes as they were leaving. And I love how right after they're able to get the drop on them, which, I mean, we're not surprised, when they get the drop on them and now they're in charge and they're like, yeah, that rollback, can we do that now?
I'm ready for that rollback now. Back to
like,
thank you. And they're like, yeah, that's over. Yeah.
Yeah, that time's over now.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I like the setup. You know, you get the shot of there's a one of the ghouls is in the foreground on the ground, and the axe head is buried in his head, and then you see that Red's holding the handle to the axe. So it's like, okay, he tried to use that to kill the ghouls, and it broke. So it looked like they were in trouble, although they did have guns, so you'd wonder why they didn't, you know, take them out and use them.
Right.
And so that strikes me that it was not a setup, that they didn't, you know, hear the truck drive up or see them and then go, oh, let's pretend like we're in trouble and then we'll rob them. You know, I mean, I think they really were in trouble, and you know, Rick and Michonne show up, and then, you know, they give them the tasteful nudes, right? And you know, the one guy, the as you put it, the dim bulb, his name was Dalton, by the way. Okay. He has a great line of they're talking about the ghouls with the big, you know, stone heads, and he's like, you got your baked and you got your boiled, kind of like pierogies. And then everybody kind of looks at him, and then he goes, I lived in Pittsburgh for a bit. which again, total Easter egg thrown in, you know, that, you know, obviously George Romero and Greg Nicotero and all those folks, Pittsburghers, right? So of course that's such a little thing in there. And so then, you know, Rick and Michonne give them the noodles, and then they're like, all right, well, be safe, right? And they turn to leave, and that's when Red pulls out his red gun, which was a weird thing. I almost had thoughts of the red machete there for a minute. Right.
Yeah. Same.
And then so great because Michonne and Rick, you know, they're totally unfazed by the gun in their faces, and they're just like, you know, we can just roll this back to thank you and just leave, and that'll be really good for everybody. And you know, and they're not having any of it. You know, they're not there. Red and his crew are like, we're, you know, we want all of it. We want all your stuff, you know. And he has this line, which is something I've been espousing since day one of this show, which, you know, Red says, you look after you. anything else in this world is a fairy tale. And I'm like, yes, that is true. That's why you can't trust anyone you meet in this universe. They're all going to kill you and take your stuff. They are, Yeah. So except for Rick and Michonne, right? They're the one exception that they help these people, they feed these people, and they ask for nothing in return. Right. Yeah. They and so on. And so then the other part that I really liked was after they, the asshole was great, but I really loved it when they get the guns and everything, and then she nods at Rick, and so he gets all 3 of the ramen and puts them back in his backpack, and he's like, we could have, they looked hungry, we could have left them the noodles, and she's like, they didn't deserve noodles.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you act like that, you don't get noodles, or whatever she said. It was really funny. So, but yeah, you're right. It was a very stereotypical group that we've seen multiple times in the Walking Dead universe that people come upon, right? That the main characters will run into, and you're also right that the only reason they're there, besides the coming back in the end, is we see the different way that Rick and Michonne interact with them versus Jadis. Jadis comes upon them. Granted, she's bleeding because she got an axe into her side and is not in a good way. She was just in a car crash and so on. But she's like, oh, I'm going to use you guys and to get what I want, and you're probably going to die, but I don't care. And, Rick and Michonne, obviously, when they came upon them, they just wanted to help them, and then we're going to leave them be. So right there, you kind of see the world philosophies, the differences between the two. And I get it. And it was okay. I didn't mind them as much as you did. Yeah, I kind of rolled my eyes at, oh, here we go again with, like you said, the reactionary guy, the dim bulb partner, and then the girl that is usually saying, are you sure we should be doing this? Which again, we've seen a million times. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. So they get back, they eventually end up, in bed because
we have to point out too, they find a full unopened bottle of Johnny Walker in the cabin, right? So again, even after that incident with the dim bulbs, their luck is still coming up Millhouse, right? Oh yeah,
absolutely. Their bad luck doesn't start until about a couple hours later. They're in full sleep mode, and Jadis wakes them up, and I just put it in as Jadis Interruptus for her entrance. Thankfully, they had all their clothes on.
Most of them.
Mostly. But they were clearly, pajamas and in bed and whatever. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a sign, this is going to sound really weird, but as a woman, like, I'm not going to lie, like, I will sometimes sleep with no clothes on, but it's usually when it's an instance where I'm pretty sure no one's going to come in. So like, we live with my mother-in-law, and if she's gone for the week, or if she goes away for the weekend or something, that's when I'll do that, because I know she's not going to come into the bedroom or whatever. So there's that. So it's interesting that when Rick and Michonne, when they had their very first, sleep together moment, the episode I referenced, which I think I looked it up while we were here, and I think it's called the Next World or the New World, the Next World. Anyway, they were at their house. They were in a feeling of comfort, so they had no clothes on, even though Carl lived there, Judith lived there. They felt very comfortable to be able to do that. But they literally had pajamas on because they don't know if those dudes were going to show back up again or try and find them. Yeah. So I think actually having the clothes on was a sign of, we need to be ready to run if we need to. And they were.
Or just ready for action if we need to.
Ready for action, yes. Yeah. So, and they were. And I was not surprised, but also kind of impressed at how they got the drop on Jadis as well. I mean, Jadis had them, pretty much dead to rights.
She did. And then
She's right there. She's got the gun.
Then she started monologuing.
Yeah, see, that's always the sign. As soon as someone starts monologuing, you're like, oh, you're not winning this battle.
Right, yeah.
It's not gonna happen for you today.
Right, it's you go back to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when bad guys got the drop on Tuco, played by Eli Wallach, and Eli Wallach eventually he's in the tub, and the guy comes in on him and he got his gun drawn, and he's monologuing to him about how he's going to kill him. And Eli Wallach, of course, somehow has a gun in the tub, and he shoots the guy with the gun under the water. And then he gets up and he looks at the dead guy and he goes, when you got to shoot, don't talk. And it sums it up. It's like, you know what? Why are you telling them how great you are and how you got the drop? Kill them. Kill them now, right? Once they're dead, you can talk to them as much as you want.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's stop talking.
That's literally what it is.
Go forth with the action, and then that would be such a much more realistic scene. But these days maybe they're taking inspiration from when you look up a recipe and then you get the 10-page story about when you learned how to make pasta in Tuscany before you get the recipe. So this is sort of the same idea. So this is sort of the same idea. So before I actually kill you, I'm going to give you all the reasons why I need to kill you.
Number one, I've created a slideshow presentation. So
it's a PowerPoint, really.
It is.
Yeah. So let me go through these slides. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that was the part that I just was the most ridiculous thing for me in this whole episode was, and again, like I said in one of our quick thoughts, I get it. They had to resolve the Jadis part of this. So, it makes sense, right? They had to do that, but I'm sorry. It's just, I doubt it. I mean, we're back in fear territory. And, if you're doubting me, people, if you have some free time and you have some friends that have some free time sometime, grab them and say, hey, you know what? You guys get in your car and you just drive in one direction. And I'm going to give you about 3 days head start. And then I'm going to get in my car and then I'm going to try and catch up and find you wherever you are. Good luck, because that's what happened. Right. And we're supposed to believe that she's I don't get me wrong. I totally bought the idea that she went to check on the crash site and she saw the yellow pickup truck. And so you have to believe she was on board that helicopter that blew up the crash site. Right. Yeah. And she saw the yellow truck parked there on the ground. And then they went back because the rest of them are like, well, they're all dead. It hit the building. Nobody could have survived. So then she, of course, going, yeah, but this is Rick and Michonne, and they're the stars of the show. And so I doubt they're really dead. So she comes back, and then she sees the dead ghouls all over where they kind of, ran out onto the street, and the truck's gone. Yeah. And so that would give her, okay, you know what? They're not dead. At least one of them is still alive, and they've driven away. I get that. That tracks. But then the fact that she's somehow able to find them that's just ridiculous. I mean, that's just TV where you're like, okay, fine. Yeah. So, and again, I just willingly threw that aside and said, all right, they're going to they're clearly resolving the Jadis storyline today. So let's have at it. This makes about as much sense as anything else they could come up with. So.
And it is resolving the Jadis storyline, but I appreciate in her monologuing, she's monologuing, but Rick and Michonne are putting in 2 cents too. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Rick continuously keeps calling her Anne. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is part of where some of her conflict later comes. She already was having those feelings, which we know because we're seeing these intercut scenes where she's meeting with Gabriel once a year, etc. Mm-hmm. And that, she's struggling. She's really struggling. And so having him continuously call her Anne is doing exactly what he thinks it will do, which is it continues the struggle for her.
Yeah. He's connecting with that version of her trying to.
Right.
When she was literally a totally different person. I don't get me wrong. I laughed when Jadis first wakes them up and she zip ties them and everything, and then Michonne and Rick like are carrying on a conversation about her like she's not in the room, and Jadis is like, that's just rude,
Yeah.
when Michonne's like, I bet she doesn't, she didn't even tell anyone she was coming here, and Rick's like, yeah, probably. She's like, hello, I'm right here,
Yeah.
So I
the person with the gun.
Yeah, right. You should be paying attention to me. So
yeah.
So I thought that was a lot of fun, and yeah, you're right. They do kind of get the drop on her, like they, are able to roll out of the way, and then Rick like tips the bed up on top of her, and she, is shooting the mattress, right, and everything, and then suddenly, then what? Michonne hits her with that little axe that she had gotten to take back to give to RJ, the little hatchet, right, and it's like sticking out of her side. I mean, I looking at it, if that were to happen today, I don't think that's a mortal wound. But then, or there in that time when there's not a lot of medical stuff and medical people, that could have been a mortal wound.
Yeah, it's also, I think the way she hit her was good. It was nice and deep, but it's also it's not even really the wound; it's the blood loss.
Right,
and,
right.
Yeah, that's really the thing that looks like it's really the thing that's gonna ultimately kill her. She just is so ridiculously weakened in the next few scenes that we see her in, because of the wound. So it's, to me, I was like, like you said, the wound would probably be able to be fixed, which is why she's like, I got to move quickly. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's the blood loss that's really the thing that's killing her, pretty much.
Blood loss, or maybe she gets sepsis, or an infection of some sort, because let's be honest, she's running around in like the woods. So
yeah, exactly. It's funny because I remembered it as Rick using his little hand bayonet in that scene, but I must have just remembered it incorrectly. They both kind of rushed at her to try and get her. So and I did only watch the episode once. So
no.
Yeah. So
no, Rick actually, he when he went to bed, he was not wearing. He takes the hand off when he sleeps.
No.
So when she wakes them up in the morning, he only has the one hand. The other hand is just a stump. So.
Stump, eh? It's funny. There's a really fun behind the scenes photo that was released today, and it's them in between takes, and they're on the bed. And I don't know I can't remember if they were tied off or not, but like Denai is just drinking out of like like a coffee mug, like a tall, like Yeti style coffee mug. And Andy's just sitting there, and he's got the bandage to the end of his hand, and then he's wearing like a green screen glove so that they can digitally take his hand out. So I just thought that was cool that they were funny. Like, this is and that's the other thing, they had little hand fans, because they must have been a little sweltering.
Must have been a little warm, you're saying?
A little close, a little warm, a little sweaty.
I did, just going back a little bit, I did like it when Michonne picks up that little hatchet, and she goes, we should give this to RJ, and he's like, you think that's him? And she goes, Judith has a sword. And then she's like, they're us.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty funny. So
yeah, that was a great moment there.
So
she's able to get away. She gets into the, they sort of break for commercial and come back, and they show that she's in whatever car, whatever vehicle she used to get there. So they end up doing.
Yeah, she says what she did when she's monologuing. She says that she somehow figured out where they were, and then she flew to the closest jump point.
Yeah.
And took the emergency vehicle that the CRM has at all these jump points. Yeah. And so that's that SUV, the black one that she was driving. So that's what.
Yeah, so she's driving away. They start going after her, and they start playing, a little bit of chicken, pushing her trying to push her off the road. Then she is able to fall behind, and then now she's in the power position, Jadis is, and she tries to push them a little bit off the road. They're like bumping and moving around. And then eventually Jadis ends up off the road and into a tree. And they, pull over, they go, she's gone from the car, obviously, and has like stumbled away into the woods. And that's when she comes upon the, the Ding Dong trio that we met in the beginning of the episode.
The dipshit gang. Yeah,
the dipshit gang, who now don't have weapons because they don't. And so... they did leave the one gun with them. They threw it away.
They threw it away, yeah. But they took all the bullets
in the other direction. Yeah.
No. Michonne puts the bullets in her pocket.
No, she doesn't. She threw them.
No,
she threw the bullets.
I watched the episode twice, lady. So she puts there's like 3 bullets in the red gun. Or in the silver one that she throws. She puts 2 of them in her pocket, and she holds one of them up and throws it the opposite direction of where she threw the gun. So
okay, so she did throw a bullet, so they could have found it, is what I'm saying. So they have at least a bullet for that gun, if they found it.
No.
Come on, this is fantasy.
That's true. I mean, it's totally. If Jadis can find them, then yes, they could totally find the bullet. You're right.
They had a metal detector right in their back pocket.
That's right. You know what? Point Diana.
Yeah, this is the land that Gimple has wrought. So,
That's right.
Who knows? Anyway, the point is that they don't really fight her because they don't need to. She's making this offer. She's like, help me get there. I'll bring you to my community. We have walls. We have food. We have all this other stuff. I mean, and if you saw someone, she's in like the whole full outfit, like the reclamation team outfit. It's like, if you haven't seen them yet, she looks like she's a fully outfitted soldier from the before times. Right. So I probably would believe her and think, you know what, it's better than what we're doing right now.
She's like one funky helmet away from being a death trooper from Rogue One. I mean, she's decked out head to toe in the black with the red trim. And I mean, she looks amazing. Now she also looks like she's gonna keel over at any minute. She comes staggering up to them, and she's got blood coming out of her side, and she's just in a car crash. And you're right, she does kind of look a little pale from blood loss. And Red looks up at her and goes, "Good goddamn, you look like a pile of hippo shit, sister." Which I just thought was kind of a great line. I'm like, all right, that was fun. And she's like, help me. And then she promises them, if you help me, I'll take you to my community. We got walls, we got beds, we got, all that stuff. We got protesters, we got parks, we got, Estebans, all that. And
all kinds of stuff.
They buy in because she immediately comes up with the plan, and they're all, they're all ready to go. So whatever she promised them, they're like, okay, we're good.
And then at the end of the scene, I'm so glad it paid off in a way I was not expecting it to. Mm-hmm. But she looks right at the girl, and she's grinning, and the girl's like, "What?" And she goes,
"What?"
She's like, "You're tall." And when she said it, she's losing blood. And she's not fully sane to begin with. She's got some issues. She's got some PTSD for sure. Especially when she talks later about her people, which she lost. I thought that she was reverting to old, Jadis, pre-Anne Jadis, when she was like, half talking and the yes and saying bizarre things like off the cuff. When she's like, "You're tall," I was like, okay, we're regressing a little. I can, what's happening here. But
when you're losing blood, things happen.
It's true. And maybe I would do the same thing if I was losing that much blood. But what's great is it's actually a great reveal when they then, in order to help Jadis do this thing to get to the helicopter, they first are like, well, let's make one stop first. And they go back to there's this other lodge that they come upon. It's a sort of a separate building, and they're hiding on the inside. Rick and Michonne are doing like reconnaissance, and they see like little splotches of blood here and there, and they're like, oh, she must have come through here to get away from the truck, to get away from the vehicle or whatever. And so you can see there's like a shadow, and they're in pursuit of someone, and then they see like this this cloak, this black cloak, and they turn her around, and it's the girl from the group. And she's just like, she told us to come in here to try and. Did she even say, like, when she saw them, she's like, it's you? Didn't she? Wasn't she surprised to see them?
She wasn't, and then she goes, because Jadis goes, there are, evil people after me that are going to kill me if they catch me, and doesn't say who, right? And doesn't describe them.
That's immaterial.
Right. And so then and by the way, the girl's name is Tina in the episode.
Okay. All right.
I thought it was Joy, but it's actually Tina. And so, they come up, and you're right. Rick and Michonne, they like see like blood, on like some of the trees, and they're following, the blood trail literally. And then they and this is where I was saying before, they go into that big building, and this is where all the displays are about what are geysers, and you can tell they have all these like sheets are hanging on rope and twine and stuff, and they've like clearly people were living in there, and they'd created their own little rooms and stuff to kind of give some semblance of privacy. But now it just makes it even worse, because now there's a million places people could be hiding. And you're right, they see like blood on the stairs and blood on the handrails, and finally they come upon what they think is Jadis, and when she turns around and she goes, oh, it's you, and then she goes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. She definitely had some she was a little feeling bad that because like she said, she didn't know it was going to be those two.
She didn't. She knows. And
you're right.
As soon as they reveal that, then Jadis and then the two boys show up, and one of them actually has one of the CRM rifles with the trident.
Yes.
And so
upsets the hell out of me, because you never see that come back again to be used as a weapon, even though they could have used it.
Actually, no, that's not true, because Michonne goes and gets it.
Yeah, but she does it like that's what I mean. Like it's not until after she is like bitten and she's sitting there does she have it and she's pointing it at her. You know what I mean?
Well, what the sequence of events is they show up, and then I think some of the stone ghouls show up and kill all of the dipshit gang.
Right.
And so then now it's Michonne and Rick versus Jadis. They're the only three that are left, and they do the little cat and mouse game, and Jadis is talking about the whole, if you kill me, you lose. If I get, killed by the ghouls, you lose. This file thing is really going to screw you no matter what. So it's really important that you don't kill me. You have to keep me alive, because keeping me alive will keep you alive, is what she's telling them. And those ghouls are coming up behind her, and Jadis kind of like puts her arms out almost in like a crucifix pose. She knows they're behind him, and she's just like, yep, if they kill me, you're dead. And Michonne shoots all the bullets in her gun and kills all the ghouls behind her. And that's when Rick makes the deal, because now they're again in a standoff. Right. And Rick's like, I'll go back with you, and we'll say that I survived the crash, and Michonne will go back to Alexandria, and then everybody will be fine. And then he says Michonne leaves to go get like a medical kit to help Jadis. And then when Rick and Jadis continue their conversation, that's when Michonne comes back with the rifle. And that's when because Jadis pulls the red gun out then, remember, and has got the gun on Rick. And then Michonne shows up and says, drop the gun. And that's when Jadis is like, oh, you double-crossed me before I double-crossed you. That's smart.
Right.
And it's at that point then that the dipshit gang have reanimated, and they show up and take a big chunk out of Jadis's neck. So
it was interesting.
They do actually get the Trident gun back. So Michonne does go get it.
Well, I hope she hangs on to it. That's a good weapon to have.
You would think, right?
Wow. I did. I was curious. Obviously, they're motivated by they need to know where that dossier is.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's part of it. But I thought it was interesting that after she was bit on the neck, they didn't allow it to continue. They killed the ghoul that was biting her, and pulled it off of her.
I think it was
in essence kind of like, yeah, in essence kind of, they didn't really save her, you could say, but they kept her from dying right then and there. They prolonged her life by 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And they were certainly motivated by the dossier, of course, but it's also, I really want to think that part of that motivation was, this is someone who used to be a part of our community.
Right.
And just that instinct is there to just try and help a person in that moment, no matter what, because that's who they are. They exhibited it at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody deserves, as bad as Jadis is, she doesn't deserve to die that way. And, I think there was also a bit of, everybody knew Jadis just got bit, including Jadis. And everybody knows that unless your name is Alicia Clark, you're not coming back from that. And
probably not.
So there's always, I'm sure Rick and Michonne had this idea of, Jadis knows she's going to die now. So maybe she will, fess up on where the file is, because she's already dead.
Yeah.
Whether the file gets turned over or not is not going to change the fact that she's going to be dead soon, right?
Right.
Either she's going to kill herself, they're going to kill her for her, or she's going to die in turn. One of those things is going to happen. And so I'm sure that entered into their minds as well. And also, by the way, there was, I thought, a really funny line when they were pursuing her in the woods, and Michonne is just like, I'm going to kill her. I am so going to fucking kill her, right? She's just seething. and Rick's like, okay. And then he looks at her and he goes, maybe just maim first. I thought that was a really fun, and I wonder if that was scripted or if that was an Andy Lincoln ad lib, in the moment, because it's just a wonderful line, and he delivers it really great with the pause, like maybe just maim for So, but anyway, you're right. So, and it's at this moment now that Jadis kind of gets her chance to her swan song, right, where she kind of is able to say everything that she says. And we also, I think we get the last flashback with Gabriel resolved, where you kind of think she's going to shoot Gabriel in the face.
Yeah and it's not going to happen, because he survives to be there for the Commonwealth stuff. Like, so timeline wise, it didn't make sense for him to die, at least as far as I could tell. The timeline could have been off. I don't know, but
well, we don't really know, because that when she pulls the gun on him, that was 1 year ago from present day.
Right. And what is present day?
Right.
Like,
where are we?
We are.
The Commonwealth might have already happened, and he's just going out to meet her because, like he says, he enjoys talking with her. He looks forward to those visits and everything. Right. So, but again, I don't know. That's part of the confusing part about this episode, because I'm not up enough on the timeline and when things are happening and when things are happening on this show in relation to when those things happen, for me to be like, oh, okay, I know exactly where we are.
Yeah. And in the thing is that being able to take this new timeline, this, Ones Who Live timeline, and be able to apply it to the main show. And also you have to add in World Beyond in there too. Like,
Right.
where does World Beyond fit in the scheme of things? Because that has direct influence on, because Jadis leaving and going to be there is connected with like the bridge day, the explosion on the bridge. But then it's like, we also know in her timeline with Rick on the show that, it's not like she became, Jadis, the, warrant officer Stokes, like right away. She became, she had to sort of work into that. So the years of, and the events in World Beyond need to sort of line up in that timeline as well. So I'm looking forward to, I meant to do it before we recorded, but I really want to deep dive on some timelines and see how they all sort of, because there's people out there that collect everything and put it all in there. And there's like Walking Dead wikis and stuff like that. And they keep a really good, and as these shows, they have the Fear the Walking Dead timeline stuff in there too, to have everything try and line up date wise. So I just need to deep dive and sort of read through some things and sort of get it set in my head where we were or where we are or where we're going to be.
Right. I mean, it's you just remember with World Beyond, those kids were like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 years old when, the world fell, right? When the sky fell, right? I think that's what they called it. And they're like 16, 17 now. So that's like at least, 10, more like 12 years has passed from when the outbreak began to what they consider the present day. How does that relate to where we are now? I don't know. I mean, clearly it had to happen after now because, Jadis is alive then and not anymore, right? So
she not anymore.
But
Jadis's timeline is over.
It would be really cool to see someone, have the actual, start from, day one and just run through and just put down when every significant event happened. And then we're like, okay, that's where we are. So
I'm sure it exists. I just have to.
Oh yeah, I do too.
I just have to dig into it and try and find it.
Right.
Speaking of World Beyond, you and I both included, when Jadis is having her sort of deathbed, air quotes, deathbed kind of moment. She does give up where the dossier is. She talks through a couple of things. You've got a great quote from her. But also I like that she, that in her sort of memories that are flashing through her mind, there's stuff from where we first met her with, the Heaps people and all that stuff, all the way up to they showed her killing Huck. So connecting it over with World Beyond, like showed the actress and everything. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's right. She killed Huck.
She did.
Yeah. So you included it. I did too. I just was like, it really was a great connection to connect these worlds all together. Jadis was a great connective thread for all three of these series, and reminding us of the Huck moment was a really, really good moment there, and it showed how significant it was for her, in her development. Well,
what I really appreciated is they, while the story is progressing, we're getting these multiple flashbacks of her and Gabriel, and in the first couple, she's really kind of, I don't want to say opening up because she doesn't go into any details, but she's letting Gabriel know that she's been doing bad things, but and she's trying to justify them for the right reasons. And so in many ways, she's kind of like this once a year trip is her way to kind of, get some redemption and almost like confession. Right.
Yeah.
And then of course the second to last flashback, Gabriel is, basically kind of calls her on a little bit about how, her people are storing up massive amounts of food, yet keeping other people starving and all this. And Jadis then that's when she has this, I thought, this great line where she kind of gets up to leave and she says, "I'm sorry I came here. I'm sorry I made myself vulnerable. And I'm sorry for turning you into a loose end." And he's like, "Huh?" And then she pushes him down and pulls her gun. And you're like, "Oh." And when she gets the drop on Rick and Michonne, before they get away, she says this line to them. She says, "See, I've been thinking about someone else I killed, a confidant, someone monumental in the development as me, as a person who will help turn the world." And based on all the flashbacks, that leads everyone to go, "Holy crap, she's going to kill Gabriel."
Right.
And then what I really appreciated was when she's kind of flashing through in her mind and we're seeing all these sequences from her in the past, we see her kill Huck, and then you realize that's who she was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she, and if you remember, and again, you might have to go back and watch, but when in the episode, because Huck is on Team CRM, she's undercover in the beginning. But then as she's going along with these crazy kids, she's like slowly coming over to their side and realizing that, oh, you know what, the CRM isn't so great. And she at the end is actively helping them. And that's when Jada shows up and starts sniffing around. And when they first meet, you get the sense that they have known each other for years and are actually friends.
Yes.
And they like each other. And now she's kind of lying to Jadis, and Jadis is, because she's a smart cookie, figures it out, and that's why she ends up killing her, right? And so anyway, I really appreciated that, because I totally bought it, where I'm like, holy crap. I mean, I wasn't like, oh no, I was just kind of like, wow, they're gonna kill Gabriel. Oh, this is interesting, and then of course it turns out, no, it's not Gabriel that she's referring to in that sequence, it's Huck. And again, like you said, it helps tie all the shows together, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was. And I like how it did tease you into thinking that it was Gabriel, because Gabriel did have a lot to do with her being developed, mostly because it helped her, like she said, it helped her see what she was considering important. And she knew that she couldn't get sucked into small things like trying to help Gabriel and Gabriel's people and stuff like that. Like, that couldn't be important anymore. She needed to be able to totally cut herself off from that stuff for the greater good, the air quotes greater good. And so she did. But then it didn't matter how close someone was if they went against her and against the Commonwealth, against the CRM.
The CRM, yeah.
For the Republic, as she shouted to Rick and Michonne. He's like, this is for you. She's like, it's for the Republic. That's why she killed Huck.
Right.
In her mind, it's for the Republic. She was a weakness in the Republic and was working actively to try and bring it down, and that she had to do that. No matter what, no matter how close she was to her.
And it was sort of like her sacrifice, like she's going to sacrifice her friend because it's for the overall goal of the CRM, which, is the 500-year plan and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I was sad to see Jadis go. I think Paulina McIntosh is fantastic as this character. And as much as I'm sad to see her go, I'm glad she went out with purpose, I guess. She hadn't really, I wouldn't say she'd changed her mind. Still, if she could have been fixed up right then and there, she still would have been working toward the Republic. Oh yeah. But I think she had some regrets, and I think that's why she told them about the dossier, because she has regrets, and that's one of them. And Gabriel is a regret, and she almost killed him, and that's a regret. And if she could just get these people back to Alexandria, she could help heal that in her mind, kind of thing. I don't know, but that little bit would heal everything to her. Plus, it's like she told them where it was.
Oh yeah.
they now have to go get it, and I think that's also she's insulated by that a bit. She can tell them where it is. It doesn't mean they're going to be able to go get it. She does, it furthers more of the whole, like, when you guys work together, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I'm sure in her mind, she's like, they're going to be able to get it. There's no way they're going to not get it. But still,
I definitely think she feels that if anybody in the universe can break into a CRM base and get that file and get out, it's these two, right?
Yeah, and be able to get back to their people and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
that's these two for sure.
Yeah.
That's the ending is we see Gabriel just waiting. We see the follow up that the next time they were supposed to meet.
Mm-hmm.
He's just waiting, and you see like the sun get a little lower and lower. So obviously the sun must be setting, and he's just waiting. And I just thought that was a really great scene. It was sad, but you knew it was coming.
Yep.
That was good. And then obviously they find the drop location because he knows where it is, and they get the helicopter, and the last thing you see is them flying away in the helicopter to go back to that base area. Because they got to get that dossier and get out of there.
Yep. And also, Michonne kind of tells the dying Jadis, their plan of, we're going to go back there. Rick's going to get the echelon briefing from Beale. Yeah. And so he's finally going to know all the dirty laundry. Then they're going to get the file. Then they're going to spill everything they know to the city that, is having questions about the CRM already.
Yes.
Right. And so they don't, it's like they don't want to destroy the city, the of Philadelphia, the secret 200,000 person city. They want to bring down the military. This sort of weird military organization that acts independently and so on. That's what they're trying to destroy. So they have like a multi-pronged plan now, that they're going to go in, they're going to try and get the file. Rick's going to do the briefing. Then they're going to somehow find a way to get out or whatever. And I don't know, I think Rick's going to have a hard time explaining how he's at the briefing when everyone thinks he's dead. But if anyone can do it, it's old One Arm. So I have faith that
one hand. It's one hand.
And by the way, I laughed almost off the chair when your last point, you actually put on there, teaching Rick how to fly a helicopter has come in pretty handy for this series.
Did I make that joke? I think I did.
You did, yes. And I'm just like, oh, well done, Driscoll. Why didn't I think of that one? It's right there. So
it really was. Literally, figuratively, it's
Every way
as soon as he was learning to fly that helicopter, I was like, this is gonna come to bite them in the ass later.
Yeah. And it has.
Yeah, they don't know how much yet, but it's on its way to biting their ass before you know it.
See, now the only good thing now about them being back in the CRM is that they can keep their helmets on now, and no one will know who they are. Which for Rick is going to be a problem, but for Michonne, I think she's going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that kind of wraps up most of what we were going to talk about. What a great episode! I don't think I jumped over anything of mine. Is there anything of yours you wanted to make sure? You got a couple of quotes there. I don't know if we hit them all. I think we did.
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, first of all, I again, another nice little piece of foreshadowing in that when I think in one of the flashbacks, and not the one with the gun when she pulls the gun on him. Maybe it was. I can't remember. But anyway, when one of the meetings between Gabriel and Jadis ends, Jadis says, so same time next year, and Gabriel says, if I'm alive.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool bit of foreshadowing in that it actually turns out to be Jadis who's the one at the end that's not alive, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And again, just a couple of the things that just bothered me was we had not one but two appearances of the stealth ghouls.
Yeah.
And I'm using air quotes here in that when the dipshit gang gets eaten by the geyser ghouls, the stone ghouls. They don't make a sound. They just appear behind them, and then get them, right. And then when Jadis gets finally bitten by the dipshit gang ghouls, they do the same thing. They're completely silent until they're right on top of her. And it's just, it's like, come on, guys, you're smart. You can figure out a way to have her get, what she needs to have happen without resorting to these obvious tricks that, why do they not do that any other time? It's just, it's bothersome to me. That's all.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think so. No other points to discuss.
I think we're gonna miss Pollyanna McIntosh.
Yeah, but, I think so too.
I although there is, I suppose, the hope that we might get some flashback stuff.
Yeah, that's possible. It depends. It depends on how they, either in the continuation of this story or maybe part of, the Daryl series or something. I mean, it's hard to say where we might be able to have her pop up again. There was a really nice the little, inside the episode featurettes they show at the end. And this one was really good because obviously it was very Pollyanna centered now that you've seen the episode and you know that she dies. And Pollyanna makes some great talking points about playing this character and how Jadis was this like reserved like character, and she's just not that person in real life. She's very out there, very outgoing, and and not measured in any way, and that playing Jadis was this was such a departure for her, and it the way it felt doing it. But she made this really great comment about how one thing I love about this this fan base or something is she was like, I may be gone, she's like, but these fans are so meticulous in the things that they care about and follow. And she's like, I will be recognized as Jadis for the rest of my life. She's like, and that's a wonderful thing. She was just very complimentary about how the fans will always, anyone who's a fan of this series and the main series, whatever, will remember her for forever. She's made her mark on this franchise, and it's true. She really has, especially for a non-canon character like this.
Right. Right.
For her to have really inhabited it this way is just wonderful. Wonderful.
I think actually when she said that, my thought was she's seeing all of the future income she's going to earn by going to conventions and signing autographs for $40 a pop and posing for pictures for $60. So yeah. And you know what? Good for her.
She could do that for the rest of her life and not have to do, you know what I mean? Like that'll be a source of of some kind of income for her for quite some time. She'll always be the person who was Jadis,
Exactly.
And the fans will always be there for her, basically.
Hey, we were just at Days of the Dead, and there was one of the Cenobites from Hellraiser 1 and 2 was there, and this was only like his third convention appearance in the United States. And I mean, the line for him was huge all weekend.
Yeah. It was crazy.
And this is a Cenobite that has no lines in the movie at all. He's the chattering teeth guy. But again, people were lined up as probably 30, 40 long, and that 30, 40 never got it never got any shorter. It was crazy. And that was that guy. Here you have a character like Jadis, which had so many great lines and incredible, just the different personas of Jadis we got.
Story arcs and things like that.
Absolutely. So it's good for her. And again, gonna miss her. But like I said at the beginning, I could kind of see this coming. They had to resolve that part of the story so they could get on with the rest of it. So
they sure did. All right. Well, if we've got nothing else to chat about, then we are going to go ahead and take just a little break, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk our listener feedback, talk that up a bit, and we'll talk about what's coming up next on the podcast.
All right, so everyone, please stick around. Yes. We'll be right back.
The following is an emergency action message. Civil authorities have identified a biological threat that they deem credible. This threat could potentially affect the entire continental United States.
The dead are returning to life and attacking the living.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a man on bed and he's attacking another man. Looks like he's biting him, like on the arm.
The initial signs are puzzling, unclear.
Getting pulled out of their cars and thrown to the ground. It looks like the bus passengers are biting their victims.
Soon, however, the reality is clear and undeniable.
The crisis involving the recently dead continues. Parliament today passed a law that requires all bodies of the recently deceased to be registered and turned
Toxic
over.
Bag Productions has captured the sounds of the zombie apocalypse and brought them to your gaming table. Background ambiances, zombie attacks, and radio transmissions that set the scene for your modern zombie adventure. Download MP3s from drivethrurpg.com or toxicbag.com.
Hey, this is Patricia Tallman, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. Don't forget to always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work, and I should know.
Hey everybody, we are back. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our listener feedback. And Steve, it's your turn to sort of jump in and do feedback first. So Steve's going to go ahead and start us off here. So go for it, man.
All righty. Well, we start off, and the feedback that we have for this week is all about this week's episode. So
yes,
we're all going to be talking about the episode Become 1.5. And our first bit of feedback comes from our pal Amelia from the Pitney and Amelia's Bitchin' Boutique podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I know. Hello, Amelia. And I got to say, it's a long one.
Yeah, I love a good long one.
I love you. Well, hello. And this came via the email. So this is an email she sent. She goes, real quick, back to 4. So she's actually going to jump back just a little bit here back to episode 4. But she goes, I guess and she uses air quotes, smart controls in that apartment were more sensitive than I first thought. And they could have been triggered by the Roomba making its rounds, because the music was definitely playing and some lights were on when Rick and Michonne first walked in. But still, even if the CRM wasn't signaled by a light going on, anyone who has lived in a place with a big window should know that at night your place becomes a big bright people aquarium where your neighbors can watch you walking around. And I would say, yes, that's how I get my entertainment. So watch what you're saying.
I love the use of people aquarium. That's awesome.
Yes, it is. And the only thing I would say about it, because I know this, a lot of people, not just with us, but just in general, have commented on the like, oh my God, they didn't pull the blinds and the lights are on and the serum and see them. You have to remember, all of the apartments, the lights were on. Right? It's not like just theirs. Like they all had power. They all had their little smart devices that were running things and turning on the music. You know what I mean? It's like all of it was going. So it wasn't just like the whole block is dark and their apartment light is lit up. So, I think if you think of it like that, it's a little bit easier to process and go, okay. Yeah. But anyway, you're right. It is hilarious. And I also like the term people aquarium because, that is true. Because when that light's on, particularly at night, it's like everybody can see, oh, yeah, there he is. Oh, look at that. He's eating an apple. Okay. It did. So it's great. So, all right. So anyway, moving on. She goes, okay, episode 5, squeeze. She goes, I gotta say, I was especially excited to see them cruising around the outskirts of Yellowstone. But when they started walking through the woods, I was like, stay on the path, because that terrain is dangerous. And then he goes, ask Pierce Brosnan, who stupidly walked off the path and got fined big time for it.
Ooh.
I did not know that. So there you go.
Even as a thing, yeah.
Okay. Even as a child, I had a healthy fear of how crazy but beautiful Yellowstone is. One wrong step and you're plummeting through the Earth's crust. A part of me wished Michonne could have stumbled into the remains of the Old Faithful Inn, which is an iconic and fabulous hotel in the park. Too much work and too dangerous for our babies, I guess. And OMG, the calcified walkers. Got me thinking how many walkers just ambled onto the white crusty ground and thwoop right into a paint pot and down you go. And that was what the one dude said. Some of them got real soggy and some of them got real crunchy. And so there you go.
Ugh.
I know, soggy. He goes, my husband never liked Jadis, so he and I have been talking about her as a character lately because he was ready to be rid of her. When she was in her Anne phase of her main show story arc, I became fascinated with her. I felt like I could see how someone who is used to seeing the world through an artist's eyes could find a way to survive by reinventing herself as Jadis, who is a performance, a character she needs to play to stay alive. Interesting.
Yeah.
But Anne couldn't live with what Jadis had to do as things got more and more desperate. Clearly, she's been disassociating for years to protect her inner Anne. And I loved how the scenes between Anne and Father Gabriel were interspersed to remind us that Anne is still in there and that her idealism got sucked in by the CRM and she became an enthusiastic true believer. In true Walking Dead fashion, we got to know the best villains as people and understand their motivations and empathize just a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. She wishes she could have died as an artist, and I think she did get to die as Anne. Gabriel would have been proud of her in the end. Aw, that's pretty sweet. He goes, I know I've talked a lot, so just one more thing and I'll shut up for now. Okay. Amelia, you never have to be shutty uppy around us. Yeah. I want you to know that. Yeah. So this is a safe space.
Talk.
You can jibber jabber, and we might not always pay attention, but we will let you do it.
Yes.
She goes on to say, I love the idea of using the people in the city to fight the CRM. Why risk characters we care about? Keep the biggest danger far, far away from our communities.
Yeah, true.
And oh my God, episode 6 already. Ah!
That's a good point about the people in the city and not risking our characters. And also, the people that are inside the Republic are probably a little cheaper to get than, say, Melissa McBride and Norman Reedus and etc.
So, okay, we all know they're in Bonjour, so they wouldn't be there. But everybody else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure, Eugene is hip to go on another journey or some kind of whatever.
Sure, Eugene and,
Ezekiel. It'll be like Rick. Meet the new guy, Mercer.
Yeah,
he's real friendly.
He's real friendly. What's her name? Yumiko or
Princess. Any of the new people.
Yeah,
I don't know any of them.
No, so but Rick would be like, who the hell are all these people?
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. Great
points,
though.
Amazing feedback, Amelia. Thank you so much for writing. It was awesome. So please, we gotta hear what you're gonna think about next week's episode.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter if it's a long email. We'll still read it. We don't care.
Exactly. I know.
Like Steve said, you're in a safe space.
You're in a safe space.
Yeah. So next up, we got an email from across the pond from our pal and frequent listener and frequent contributor, Bev. Hello, Bev.
Hey, Bev.
Bev writes in this week and says, hi, guys. Hope you had a good week. Isn't it wonderful to see our favorite couple back together again? I was surprised and delighted to see Gabe again, but it was a challenge to figure out where their meetings fit in the timeline. Ophelia. And she says, I have a feeling he kissed Anne when he was in a relationship with Rosita. I'm not sure, but since it's not clear, I don't know. It's possible. I could be wrong. She continues on and says, those meetings were so important to the Jadis Anne storyline and her internal conflict over which group of people meant the most to her. She's always chosen what she believes to be the strongest side to aid her survival. But deep inside, she's really just a sweet artistic person who wants to be loved. The ineptitude of the group of people they came across and the reasoning that they sided with Jadis because they couldn't survive on their own seemed a little off. We're at least 10 years into the apocalypse now. I think anyone who's left knows how to survive. She continues and says, yeah, that's true. She continues and says, all in all, this was another good episode. I'm glad Jadis got her redemption arc. I would still rather that our heroes just went home, but they've been hinting at this big meeting of the CRM since the first episode, so they had to go back. Just one more thing. What about the proposal? Oh, yeah, we didn't cover that.
We did not
how
cover
lovely
that.
was that? Made me feel the big emotions. Hopefully they will get their happy ending. And looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode. Bev, writing from Rainey Brixham. And she includes a PS, which is very sweet of her. Her PS says, I just wanted to thank you guys for the work you put into the podcast. This week has been very hard as I found out that my best mate has MND. And I looked it up, folks, and MND is like an umbrella neurological disorder that the most common form of it is ALS. So that will sort of place it for everybody. So she says, my best mate has MND, and she says, The Walking Dead and the community around it that yours and other podcasts have created really helps me focus my thoughts on something that brings me joy. I'm sure that I'm not the only one that sees the show and your podcast as a bright light in dark time. Thank you. And Bev, I just want to say thank you. Those are such sweet, sweet words to say. And it's the one thing that we would hope we can bring to people is a little bit of joy, a little bit of silliness about a show that we all, at least in this case, enjoy watching. Sometimes it's not the case, but we hope that silliness is also something that brings joy to folks. And we're so sorry about your friend, and we're thinking good thoughts for them and for you. But we are also glad that you have us as well as other parts of the Walking Dead fandom and universe to sort of give you some moments of joy. So, hang on to those nice and tight, and they will definitely help. I absolutely guarantee it. So
absolutely. Thank you for the kind words. It's always we do it because we love it, but it's always great when for anybody when someone tells you that they appreciate what you're doing. So that makes us feel so great. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Bev. Thank you.
All right. Moving along. Our next piece of feedback. Now, this came via the Facebook, and this is from our pal Barbie Allen. So, hello,
hey, Barbie.
Barbie, how are you? She goes, I can't believe I was sad to see Jada/Ann die. Haven't I wanted that since she double-crossed Rick and sided with Negan? Yeah, that's true. Remember, and he had to fight the walker with all the spikes on it, the armor or whatever, and all that stuff. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it was seeing those interactions with Father Gabriel. They added a new layer to her character, made her a more complex villain. I actually was hoping she would have somehow helped Rick and Michonne and the Alexandrians and died a heroic death. I certainly didn't think she'd be gone this soon. And I was thinking about that too. Before I even saw this episode, were they going to turn Michonne? Were they going to turn Jadis at some point?
Yeah.
Was she going?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I was going to agree with you. I was thinking the same thing. Like that could be a possibility that they turn her.
Yeah, that she will eventually, go, you know what, Rick, you're right. The Alexandria is where I was the happiest, and screw these people and their electricity and helicopters and all that stuff. I'm going to go back and live with all you people with the windmill. I don't know. I thought it was a possibility because even before they had this episode, I knew that they couldn't keep up the Jadis has the trump card element forever because we would get tired of it and not enjoy it. So it had to get resolved one way or the other, and that was certainly a possibility. So I agree with you, Barbie. It would have been interesting to see if she had done that. But I think, like you said, with the Father Gabriel stuff in this episode, we really kind of got a much better look into the struggle she's been having. And we understand a little bit more what, who she was all about. And she kind of got to go out in a cool way. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely a way they could have gone. And I didn't expect this resolution to her character. But I got to say, I think it works better than a flip-flop would have, because then in this way, she goes out on her terms. She, like we said, if someone could have, healed her on the spot, she would have still worked for the Republic.
Exactly.
Ultimately, would she have been conflicted? Sure. But she would have known what her purpose was. And I like that. Although she, was conflicted in the end and gave up, the dossier and the stuff, whatever, and basically gave them the tools to sort of go home. And she also did not kill Gabriel, so obviously she was conflicted about that too.
Right.
She still remained true to who she was, or who she had become, and I appreciated that. I thought that was a great way for her to go out.
Yeah.
But you're right. It would have been interesting to see her. Can you imagine her rolling up on Alexandria, just be like, "I'm back.
Welcome, bitches." Yeah,
I'm here to help."
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for your feedback, though, Barbie. Love hearing from you.
Very cool.
Yeah. Next up, we got some more feedback via the Facebook from our pal Teresa Harper, frequent contributor, and
hey, Teresa.
Teresa wrote in saying, "I loved this episode, and we got our old Rick back. Yay! I was kind of sad to see Jada/Anne go. I felt there was hope for her as we saw her confide in Father Gabriel. I almost fell out of my chair when I saw Father Not the Father," which is what we used to call him before. He's father, but he's not the father.
Not the father, but he is a father.
But he's a father.
Yeah.
Amazing episode, and she did the Taylor Swifty, like the hands is the heart thing.
Hands is the heart. Yep.
Yeah, very cute, very cute. Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah,
I think it was great. All
Me
right.
too.
So next up on the podcast, we'll be covering the so far just the season finale of The Ones Who Live. Next week's episode, the title is The Last Time. Hard to believe, but there's no episode description yet that's been put out in any. You can find what? The clips we got at the end of the episode, we get a lot of images of Rick and Michonne in CRM outfits, and sort of fighting battles. We get some images of General Beale talking and things like. So they're clearly exactly what they said they were going to do. They're in a battle for getting the dossier, maybe getting that echelon briefing. We'll see, and then getting out. They
will. One of the scenes is General Beale, and it's Terry O'Quinn, and he's looking right at the camera, and he says something like, once you have this briefing, things will never be the same. You know what I mean? It's something cryptic and ooh, what could that mean? So clearly, whatever this echelon briefing is, it's sort of like the real purpose or the real goal or the real enemy they're fighting or whatever, and it's going to be something that is so crazy that once you hear it, you're just going to be like, no, I totally have to help the CRM, right? So we'll have to see. And then again, like you said, lots of stuff of them, and they're walking around and they're jumping fences and jimmying doors and doing all the Mission Impossible stuff to kind of get in and get out, and we'll have to see what is they going to wrap it all up and they could never do another one, or is this just going to be a regular season finale and then in 9 months there'll be episode 7.
I put that down as like sort of a talking point. What do you think it feels like it's leaning one way or the other?
Doesn't it seem to you that on the surface there's way too much heavy lifting to do to end the series?
Yeah.
To bring down they're going to bring down the CRM and get back to Alexandria in 52 minutes.
Yeah.
And, it's like, okay. It seems it would be awful rushed if they were to do that. So just based on that, I would say that they, clearly the producers are gunning for at least doing a season 2. Now, whether that would be a full season or another 6 episodes, I don't know. But I could see that. But at the same time, I don't know what Annie Lincoln and Denai have time-wise. Maybe they agreed to do 1 season and that's it.
Yeah.
So, we'll really. I think at this point it could go either way. I really do. I don't have a definite feel of, oh yeah, this is it, or oh no, they'll be back. So we'll have to see. What is mind-boggling to me is that we're already on episode 6.
Yeah, this moved so quickly.
Yeah.
It really did. It feels like it was, February, whatever, just yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's just not anymore.
So anyway, we didn't get your point. What do you think? Do you expect it to end, or are you thinking there'll be a 2?
I think I agree with you that I don't think there's enough evidence either way for one or the other. I will say this though, all of these new spin-offs have all gotten a second season. Mm-hmm. And I would say Rick returning to the series is bigger than anything else that was a spinoff combined. Like, I know that there's a lot of Daryl love out there, but Rick coming back trumps all of it. So I think all things being equal, if Andy and Denai are able to come back for a short season, because this was only 6 episodes. If they did another little block of episodes, I think it would be good. I think it would, like you said, I can't see them wrapping up or doing a whole war in the 51 minutes. I feel like the story shows that they could go further, but it's up to the stars if they are willing to come back for more. So it really, really depends. Because that commitment, I mean, if they just film 6 episodes once a year or once every 9 to 12 months, it's not as bad as it was when you did 16 every, right. This is such a small portion of what they used to do. I think there's more story there. So if they're willing and they could do it, I'd love to see some more. But I understand for all the reasons that they left in the first place, being something that could hamper getting a season 2. That's certainly a possibility. But if they can do it, I'd love to see more.
Yeah, I think one thing we also have to consider is I'm really sure that Andy Lincoln, there's no way he wants Norman Reedus to have more extra episodes than him. So he'll be like, no, I'm going to stick it to Reedus. We're coming back. So I could see that being a thing as well. But I think it's good in a way that we don't really have a feel for it one way or the other, and that maybe this is it, and maybe there's going to be more. And I think that's a sign of it's good storytelling, that it's not like Fear the Walking Deading it, where you're like, well, clearly, this is going to be over, and all the things are being wrapped up into a nice bow and all that stuff. We don't have any of that. So
no, not at all. I put a note down though that if we could get another surprise character, I think that'd be great. I mean, we've known since the beginning, because they mentioned Pollyanna McIntosh when they were talking about, the casting of different people that would be in this series. So we knew ahead of time that she was going to show up. And of course, it makes sense considering everything. But I'd love to see if they could cross over another maybe World Beyond character. Maybe they cross paths with the kids at some point. Sure. We'll have to see. But I think that'd be another great sort of combination, wrap these series all up in a bow if they can.
Sure.
Rick perseveres and he wins.
Rick perseveres, he wins, and let's be honest, there would be no character that would be more of a surprise coming back than Heath.
That's true. It'd be great if actually everything hinges on whether or not Heath comes back.
Oh my god!
He shows up and he's the linchpin to all of this shit.
And it would be great if he shows up and saves them, and then Rick looks to him and said, "What happened after the bridge?"
Yeah, he'll be like, "Hey, has anyone seen Tara?
Yeah,
because I'm so sorry I made her worry." They're like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah. No, Tara got ahead.
She gone. Yeah, she.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, so that's going to be next week, and we mentioned for the last few weeks we were going to be attending the Days of the Dead convention over this past weekend, and we went.
We did.
We saw. We met some famous people. We got some pictures. We did some things. It was good times.
We did.
You went for more. You were there Friday and Saturday, and I just went on Saturday.
Yeah.
For a portion of and of course you interacted with way more because you got a bunch of signatures, etc. So I think it's only fitting if you talk about our time.
Well,
at the Days of the Dead.
This year I was really excited because they were doing a Hellraiser reunion and also Hellraiser 2 more specifically. And first of all, Clive Barker was making one of his final appearances, at least for the time being, he announced that he's coming to this show. He went, I think he was in a show in Boston, and he's doing like one or two others, and then he's not going to make any appearances like that because he wants to focus on his health. He's not in the best of health right now, and he has a bunch of projects that he wants to do. And so he's basically saying, this is your chance to get a piece of me here for the near future, and then I'm going to be gone. So there was obviously a lot of people there to see him for that, and I think we ended up waiting maybe an hour and 45 minutes to in line to go meet him, but he was great. He was very weak. He didn't really have much of a voice. He talked like this, but he was very, with it and interacting and, talking to you. And he was very much, enjoying what was going on. So that was really cool. And then there was a bunch of cast members. All the Cenobites from Hellraiser 2 were there, and Ashley Lawrence, who plays Kirsty, who's the kind of the final girl of the first couple Hellraiser movies, she was there, so that was great. We met Malcolm McDowell again, and he was wonderful, so that was fun. And I got two more guys for Fire in the Sky, from a movie from 1993 about alien abduction. That is one of these weird movies that tanked people when it came out. I mean, it made like $12. Like 3 people went and saw it. And now today, 30 years later, it's kind of like a cult classic. It has this weird following of people that are like, oh my God, that movie's great. And if you haven't seen it, you should. It's really intense. It's got Robert Patrick, our Liquid Terminator, and of course, Walking Dead guest star with the weird twin episode. It's got D.B. Sweeney and Henry Thomas and just a bunch of actors from that time period, and it's a really interesting story. Anyway, I think I have 4 of the cast to sign that poster, and so that was pretty cool as well. So really good time. We obviously went to Caddyshack's and had our Caddyshack dinner, which is always a great time to just sit around and talk. Yeah. And, have the waitress walk up to us like 20 times and kind of like,
can I get you anything else? And we're like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
And basically after a while, she's like, can you leave now? And then we're like, no, we're good. And then she walked away.
It's the first time I think that's happened where we were there and literally around 9 o'clock or so. And we had been there since like a little after
6:30. Yeah.
Yeah. And they turned the lights on higher, and I was like, whoa, that got bright. And we're like, yeah, this is you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
That's right. This is the closing time. Yeah, right. Last call for alcohol. Yeah. So.
Please. Which sounds early, but they use that location for like after party, like VIP stuff later in the evening. So they close to the regular slobs like us.
They do.
At a certain time.
We should point out that sitting in the booth directly behind me was Ashley Lawrence. She came in with her handler or whoever, and they had dinner or drinks or something. So yeah, sometimes the celebrity type folks come in there. But yeah, a super fun show. I actually picked up a couple of issues of the Walking Dead comic that I needed to fulfill my collection, and did a little haggling with the dude, and that worked out
nicely.
I thought I got a pretty good deal. I did. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And I don't know. I think everybody bought something. You got a couple of little black smushy kitties, and our pal Jody, who tags along, she, of course, she's a pin person, so she bought several pins. It's funny. She has a backpack that she brings, and she's put all these pins on it. And I mean, that backpack's got to weigh like 40 pounds from all the metal pins she has on her back. It's
the backpack is like 50 pounds, and half of it is from the pins, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
She gets a cardio workout walking around that convention floor with that backpack. It's amazing. But yeah, again, a really good time. They're already hyping up the November show when they come back, and so we will be there as usual, and it's gonna be fun. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, we love it. And again, we will be back. Next up on the docket for convention going is probably C2E2. Yeah?
Yes, C2E2 in April, and they did just announce today that there was like no guests at all for a long time, and then now they're just kind of regurgitating them every day. But they like last week they announced Christina Ricci and Christopher Lloyd, so a little Addams Family reunion.
They sure did.
But then for today, you spotted it first, and you sent it to me, and I was like, oh.
Tom Skerritt and Veronica Cartwright from the original Alien.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So,
it's gonna be expensive, but good.
Oh yeah, and for a long time, I was like, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be a show I don't have to spend that much money at. And now I'm like, damn you! Gotta sell another kidney.
Damn it, stupid kidneys! You're gonna run out of them soon. That's the thing. You got to be careful. So.
Well, someone offered me a lot of money for one of my livers, so I'm thinking about that.
Yeah. Do that. Sell. It'll grow back actually if you just. It's regenerative. Absolutely. Okay. That's fine. It's fine. You'll be fine.
It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fine. So nothing else really to discuss. I think we're good to go ahead and wrap this thing.
All right, well, let's do it, and then we all can get ready for episode 6.
We sure
the
can.
Last time.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up for this week's folks. Thanks for always tagging along while we chat about our favorite and your favorite show. We'll be back again, like Steve said, to talk about episode 6 next week. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I am La Steve. Bonjour.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because body shots, I'm sorry, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTHpodcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, aimfortheheadpodcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
Did you hear what she said? She said, if I can't use the Wi-Fi on Mondays, you can't jigsaw puzzle with us.
That's just rude.
It is just rude.
Suck it, nerd.
There's your B-roll.